The 2024 election and the future of democracy hinges on vibes and vibes only.
So we've got to check them. And here to help us do that this week is Emily Amick, aka @EmilyInYourPhone.
We're going to talk with her a little bit about the fallout of the Alabama Supreme Court decision that ruled frozen embryos are people, and the calculations we're seeing Republicans make in real time on the unpopular decision that uses their own logic.
She'll stick around as we discuss the gathering of the most staunch MAGA extremists in the country who are planning to end democracy, the latest Republican efforts to impeach just about everybody, and potentially another government shutdown.
We'll round out the vibes this week with a brief presidential primary update, then introduce you to the trad wife phenomenon, pull up our group chat, and leave you with a good vibe. Lots to get into. Let's do it. Big day! Our dear friend, Emily and Your Phone, is here. So we were talking all about IVF, repro last week, and we kept saying we wish Emily were here with us. And this week, here she is.
Here I am. I'm outside of your phone, into your headphones. I'm excited to be here at Vibes Only.
If you don't already follow Emily, Emily's incredible. She makes really digestible content, breaking down the most important things that are happening in government and in politics. She is a lawyer by trade, and so has been especially helpful for me, and I think thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of others in understanding rulings that are coming from the Supreme Court and lots of complicated or seemingly complicated issues that impact all of our fundamental rights. So as Glennis said, super relevant, perfect timing to have you on to chat about some of the crazy shit that's been coming out of courts lately. Let's dive in to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling. Can you give us your high level reaction to the embryos are children saga?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a logical extension of personhood arguments, right? There's no way to say that personhood begins at fertilization and have IVF be functionally legal. And I think a point of information about this Alabama Supreme Court ruling is that it's about civil litigation. So it's not about criminal. It's about, are you liable for things that happen on a monetary basis? And so the reason that we have seen such a chilling effect so quickly is because the lawyers retained by all of these hospitals and fertility clinics are like, uh-oh, this is not good. If anytime we make a mistake with an embryo, we are going to be held as if we killed a human person.
Oh my God.
That is an unsustainable financial thing to have. Because, of course,
Right.
in the United States, you can earn a lot of money in a civil trial. O.J. Simpson's the example that everyone thinks of. When you murder someone,
Right.
we use monetary damages as a way to disincentivize behavior. And what's been really interesting is seeing Republicans across the country try to claim that they had no idea this was happening, whilst they have spent years and years and years, decades even, arguing for legal personhood of fertilized eggs.
Say that.
Period.
So that is something that's been blowing up on the internet this week is
Yeah.
after this ruling came out, Republicans literally scrambling, freaking out. They know that banning IVF super unpopular across the board. So they're like, no, we support IVF. But then they're literally co-sponsors of a bill that would ban it.
But I'll say it's not unpopular across the board. There are people, right? The anti-choice / pro-life activists are jazzed about this because, of course, you have that activist faction of the conservative party who believe in biblical conservatism.
Sure.
And we saw that reflected in the concurrence from the Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice. And they are ecstatic about this decision. And they say, yes, an embryo is a baby. And I think one of the most interesting things to see has been to see Nikki Haley try to walk the line, because she both tries to insist that an embryo is a baby, but also that we should allow IVF.
We have to talk about the Tommy Tuberville clip.
Do you have a reaction to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling on the fact that embryos are children?
Yeah, I was all for it. We need to have more kids. We need to have an opportunity to do that. And I thought this was the right thing to do. But
IVF is used to have more children, and right now IVF services are paused at some of the clinics in Alabama. Aren't you concerned that this could impact people who are trying to have kids?
Well, that's for another conversation.
They've put baby in a corner.
Yeah. Literally. I think there are a few other angles to this that we've seen this story sort of spiral out into. One that also caught my eye this week is the Missouri law that says that
Yeah.
pregnant women can't get divorced.
Great.
Ladies,
Yeah.
any comment? Any comment?
You know, obviously the most salient concern about the Missouri law is domestic violence victims who are trapped in abusive situations and cannot escape because their partner has impregnated them. And it's an exceptionally effective tool for an abusive partner to use to trap a woman. You know, it also connects more broadly to something we are seeing across the right, which is this effort to end no-fault divorce, right? And this is something, the Overton window hasn't shifted yet on the issue of divorce in the same way it has shifted on other issues that the conservatives have been pushing for a long time. But this is all some bigger plan that is the war on women.
Alice, I know that you are deeply connected in these spaces, and you honestly subject yourself to a lot of this really right-wing rhetoric to see what's happening in their algorithm and in their echo chambers. Can you talk a little bit about what that community looks like online and how you are so plugged in there, what it is that you're seeing, particularly post Alabama ruling?
Yeah, I love Instagram and I love politics. And for a long time, the only overlap of that Venn diagram was far right-wing conservative influencers, wellness junkies. And so I have been following all of these people for a really long time. And obviously, there's huge amounts of money to be made to be a right-wing influencer. And so there's lots of women who are doing it, and they're doing it really, really, really well. Excellent communicators. And you know, as there's a huge portion of them who are pro-life activists, self-described pro-life activists. And you know, what I'm seeing from them is a defense of the position and a defense of the fact that we have to do what it takes to protect these babies. And can you imagine being a mother of children in a cryogenic nursery, which is the parlance of the decision, and someone comes in and ruins them, and we have to protect these mothers. And I'm seeing a lot of that. But, you know, Media Matters reported that Fox News has not been covering this issue. So to a significant degree, what I've seen is they're just focusing on the border. They're not talking about this issue. And they are very, very good at ignoring what they don't want to talk about.
I want to dive one level deeper on the Instagram of it all. You've opened up a whole new world to me, and I know a lot of other people, with the trad wives content. Tell us, for those who are less Instagram plugged in or less plugged into conservative spheres of influence, tell us more about what that movement is about, what it looks like, and why it's insidious.
Trans wives are really interesting, and they've really the discourse has taken over TikTok, which is always really funny. People have really hit on it. You know, I think in the way the discourse has manifested has really grown, especially over the last couple of weeks and months. But a trad wife is a woman who is in a quote unquote traditional marriage, which means she doesn't work outside of the home, and she's focused on rearing her children, making food, keeping the home, deferring to her husband on all decisions. I saw one trad wife posting about specifically politics, how she loves that she doesn't have to think about it and she can just vote for whomever her husband tells her to vote for.
Cool.
And you know, the thing is, choose your own choice, girl, right? If this is what people want to be doing, go for it. But that's not what is happening online. And a lot of the attention has been spent on these massive accounts like Ballerina Farms, who are creating a very, very whitewashed, figurative and literal version of what it means to be a traditional wife. But this is something we have seen coming out of the Christian evangelical homesteader community for a long, long time. And it is this idea of, again, shifting the Overton window away from feminism. It is shifting the Overton window away from women in the workplace, away from sending your children to public schools where they have to be masked and vaxxed, right? Which is terrible for the children. It's about wellness to right-wing pipeline ideology. And it's all wrapped into this conversation. And what has been really interesting to see on TikTok is the reactions from women who are like, I'm a former trad wife. And a lot of these are religious women, right? Mormons who were like, I believed that this was my task, and my husband left me when I was 30, 40, and I have no ability to earn income, and I had to take care of these children, and he gave me nothing, and it really fucking sucked. Or I was a DV victim and I had no way out because I had no financial security. And it's it's the same conversation that women and people were having the first time around when we tried to end trad wives and
Right.
midwifery, and it's a big part though of the conservative Christian biblical ideology that they are trying to push to, again, change the Overton window, shift the cultural norms.
Yeah. And just a comment, like I'm so deep on TikTok, and what I am served is, to your point, very well off trad wives, where we're seeing them make cereal from scratch or ice cream from scratch for their beloved husband and children. But we're not seeing the actual admin of homemaking, which is the cleaning of the toilets, the grocery shopping, the childcare. So it's very interesting, the marketing of it. And to your point about these conservative messengers being very good at what they do. They're showing an idealized version of what being a trad wife looks like.
I think what the right is very good at doing is tapping into a feeling, and a feeling of the vibes right now for a lot of people are very overwhelmed. Branding. The vibes are overwhelmed. The vibes are, I want to tap out from the rat race. Capitalism is a beast, and I get too much information, not enough money. Life is too hard. And what they are offering is an exit path. Right? Like, girl, if your life is too hard right now, I have a solution for you. You just give it all up, go to a homestead. It'll be amazing. All you'll do is like bake sourdough. You'll make organic Play-Doh for your kids. And like, you won't have to make these hard decisions. The man will make them. Men renowned for making excellent decisions. So sounds like a great plan.
I was like, are they taking applications from gays? I'm like, sounds great.
Heard it here first. Brian Derrick is pivoting from political content on his Instagram to wannabe trad wife.
But
Trad wife. Gay trad wife. First one. Glass ceilings.
Yeah.
Glass
ceiling who? So CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Like, we needed to hear more from them. Well, we did. Regressive, repressive. There were some Nazis there, like full-blown 2024 Nazis were like out and about in the flesh.
Salute and all.
Yeah, they were like fully like, we're not cosplaying here. We mean it. And there was a lot of viral moments, one of which we'll share here, just in terms of like what they're rooting the entire conference in.
I just wanted to say, welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
That's right, because all glory is not to government, all glory to God.
Boy.
I know. He's so
guys.
He's like, a successful shit poster. I mean, it's really remarkable. Like, I remember back in the old days when he would just post random hot takes on Twitter that were totally misinformed. And now he's national news.
Look at him now. Literally, look at him now.
Like a headline type of event at CPAC. That's crazy. That's an indefensible thing to say under any context in like a political setting. And for our audio only listeners, he's holding up I think it's a rosary or a crucifix, and he's saying,
was he?
Yeah, that's like.
Oh, I thought he was like fisting the world.
Like,
do you want to retake that? Do you want to retake that?
Oh, I guess no. Leave it.
Okay, great. He was not doing any kind of salute. He's holding up a crucifix necklace, and so he's saying all glory to a Catholic or Christian evangelical God, not to our democracy, and that their theocracy, their idea of what this Christian, what they believe is like this, what our nation should be, which is a Christian white nationalist nation, is more important than the will of the voters. Like, that's explicitly
democracy.
What he's saying, right?
Yes. And he got a lot of heat very quickly on the internet because of these statements, which he quickly walked back saying, well, yeah, I know. I'm not like defending them. I'm just like, the internet responded in good time. And he walked them back saying, I'm a satirical person. It was strictly satirical. Ha ha ha. And it's like, babe, you're not. I assure you. You mean what you say. I
think someone who is never shy about his extremism is Stephen Miller, who also had a moment at CPAC.
A number of states, for example, have passed laws saying that you can't have this in the curriculum or you can't have that in the curriculum and you can't teach DEI and so on and so forth. Without exception, I can promise you, all the commies in the classroom changed the name of their lecture, changed one word, changed one little paragraph in the syllabus, and did the exact same damn thing every single day because they're communists and that's what they do. Were they sued? No. Were they arrested if they broke a law and it's applicable? No. Did any DA anywhere, if you're talking about trans issues, think of arresting somebody for abusing children with trans ideology? No. So until we get serious, all the way down to the local DA, all the way up to the state AG, and every office in between, including judges, electing people who have power and will use that power and measure their success by change in the real world, then we aren't going to be able to beat the left.
It's scary that they don't think that they've gone far enough on turning what should be non-partisan offices like judges, like DAs, into more ideological positions and part of the culture war, as he's talking about, like, how do we prosecute people for being trans or
Right.
for supporting trans people. Like, that's extremely concerning, that from his perspective, someone who's deeply, deeply entrenched and is being floated as a potential attorney general in a second Trump administration.
Is he?
Yes. The goal is to turn these things into a much more extremely ideological state. It's concerning.
Gone are the days of small government.
Yeah, right. Remember that?
I'm sorry that I have to bring him up, but Donald Trump was at CPAC. So I'm just going to give you some quick highlights. And by highlights, I mean lowlights from his speech. He said that the January 6th insurrectionists have been treated unfairly, calling them, again, this word, hostages.
You heard the J6 hostages, didn't you? You heard that. And I will tell you, there's never been in the history of our country a group of people treated the way they've been treated. There's never been anything like it.
And he also claimed that he himself, Donald Trump, is a political dissident.
I stand before you today not only as your past and hopefully future president, but as a proud political dissident. I am a dissident.
Criminal.
Suburban, truly, you're a criminal, buddy. He said suburban women are going to want him back.
Suburban women, they're going to love me so much. They're going to say, oh, I wish we had that guy back.
Disgusting. And this one was really, to me.
November 5th will be our new Liberation Day, but for the liars and cheaters and fraudsters and censors and imposters who have commandeered our government, it will be their judgment day. Their judgment day.
Okay.
Gross.
Whatever, Donald.
I hate it.
I hate it too. I'm not a liar, cheater, fraudster, and censor, and an imposter.
Yeah, I feel like he does a terrifyingly good job at pulling in the far right, the Nazi arm of the party
Totally.
through events like this. He's great at the dog whistles and dropping the hints and just enough to tell the Nazis that, like, oh no, we're on the same page here.
Totally. He's pulling from the Hitler marketing playbook.
Emily, it is now the fifth time that we're talking about a potential government shutdown in the last 6 months. It is literally endless.
They have no ability to govern without creating illusory leverage, right? Like,
Wait.
They
Can we-
seem-
what's illusory leverage? I'm gonna need a definition there.
they have no
Survey
with,
says?
like illusory is not real, right? Like they've created an illusion
Illusory.
of leverage.
We're
That
I thought
learning
you
today.
said illusory. I thought this was a new lever.
loosey goosey.
Yeah, I literally thought it was
Illusory.
that.
Maybe it's sometimes I get snapped at for using legal terms of art, which I'm like, girl, it's not my fault. Like, I've been practicing law for a very long
Classically
time.
trained. Absolutely.
Classically
trained.
lawyer.
This is creating leverage because they have no ability to govern otherwise. And the irony here is, Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, created his little laddered plan because it would give them time to come up with solutions. And what have they done with their time? They have walked up again to the end date. They have mere days, and there's no clear path to victory. And part of this is because he doesn't have the ability to pass anything in his own chamber, right?
Right.
Like, the Democrats in the Senate, they can pass shit, and he's not passing anything.
Totally. There are four key constituencies that you need some degree of support from in order to pass these: Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats, House Republicans, and three of the four are on board and ready to go. And it's just House Republicans that are, as you say, incapable of governing. And we won't get into like the nuances. There is potentially going to be a government shutdown. Maybe it will be averted, maybe it will not. But I think the through line here, every time, every 4 weeks to 6 weeks that we've had to do this dance, is that the Republican Party, particularly in the House, which is more responsive to the country's mood because there are elections every 2 years instead of 6 for senators,
And
has,
they're more unhinged. Like,
well, totally. I mean,
yeah.
and I think that's a big part of why, right? Is that we're
Mhm.
replacing a huge portion of them every 2 years. There's like a
Right.
record number of Republicans, particularly moderates, that are leaving, and they're explicitly leaving this November because they're saying, we can't do anything with these people. I can't work with
Right.
these people.
Oof.
And so what happens, Emily, when a party falls apart in the way that the Republican Party is falling apart in the House when they swing so far to the extreme?
Yeah, I mean, the answer to your question is conceivably voters either reward that behavior or don't reward that behavior. And TBD, that's what November 2024 is all about. I think
Mhm.
like a great irony here is that if if in this upcoming process what we get as the outcome is 2 more CRs, a deal brokered by Kevin McCarthy, the deal that lost him his speakership, that drops down the budget by 1% essentially,
Mm,
which for a lot of House Republicans is a win. But it's not a policy-based win. It would go into effect. And so like the great irony of McCarthy losing his seat over something that's at this point a most viable outcome, because there is seemingly there's no nadir between the two groups right now, because what House Republicans are saying they want is so extreme. And part of this is because of our partisan primary system and the
Mm.
fact that a lot of these moderates are also, they're just constantly fearful of getting primaried from the right and getting
right.
primaried by a really Christian conservative MAGA type person who sounds more fun. And voters are like, we want to watch that show. And so this is the show that voters vote, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is the show that Republican voters wanted. Not all of them, some of them. But getting back to the seal of it all, right? Matt Gaetz has learned a lesson, the same lesson that Chaya has learned, which is that, if you do this trick, you are rewarded with headlines and inches and media coverage. And so he's doing it again. And this is how they've learned, this is how they've been governing and how they've been accomplishing things. And the problem is Mike Johnson has no ability, like he has no experience that would lend
Mhm.
him to know another way of doing things.
Right.
And they don't know how to do it.
And I think that we can go straight into the other major event that's happening in the House these days, is impeachment, because that is the only thing that they seem to be able to agree on, is attacking Democrats. Like they have
Right.
no ability, as you're saying, to move the ball forward, to pass any kind of policy, any kind of budget that could meaningfully help the country or address our challenges. And so instead they just play political games. And
Mhm.
the game that they're playing this week is impeaching Mayorkas, who's the first cabinet member to have been impeached by the House in 150 years. And
Mm.
they're now sort of sitting around twiddling their thumbs, deciding when to give that over to the Senate, at which point the Senate will decide whether they're going to dismiss it right away or hold a trial.
For the audience, those who don't know, Mayorkas is Secretary of Homeland Security, and he's being impeached on the border.
Well, he's being impeached because he didn't do what the Republicans want, right? This is
Right.
this is not an impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors, which is the technical standard that they are supposed to be following.
Yeah, lawyer
This
here.
is it's an impeachment because they're like, we don't like that you are letting people into this country. We think that that is a violation of your oath to this country. That's functionally their opinion. And
Right.
we don't like how you're applying the laws, that you have full authority to apply any way you please. And that's really the standard.
And I want to remind for the audience that a few weeks ago, we had a bill for the border and for immigration that did not move forward because Republicans would not agree to it because Donald Trump said no. So this really is just political baseball and theater.
Plenty of Senate Republicans have said that they don't think that performing your duties differently or having a difference in policy goals is reason for impeachment. So I don't think that even Senate Republicans are on board. But the question, so it's not a question as to whether he will be convicted. There's no question about that. He will not be convicted and removed by the Senate. But the question is like, will there be a trial? And I was looking at some vote counts, even though I try not to. And it does seem it's just a majority vote. We only need 51. And so it does look like it could come down to Sinema, who's I think the only she's an independent, but like the only person who she doesn't caucus with Democrats, is the only vote that we need who has not explicitly stated how that she is planning to acquit or like dismiss the thing altogether.
Just the way she likes it, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. She's got to make sure she's the center of the attention.
Always.
You know, and I think that there's a strategic question here for Chuck Schumer, which is, do you put on the show to show how empty the accusations of Republicans are? I mean, you know, we have heard for years and years and years about Joe Biden having this allegation, this specter of impropriety with regards to Burisma and Hunter and Ukraine and all of this. And we only just recently learned like this was all based on information planted by literal Russia.
Right.
You know, and it's been years and years of the specter of impropriety, which has effectively messaged to the populace. So the question is like, you know, I've had a lot of DMs, people asking me, isn't there a way to like sue House Republicans for defaming Mayorkas? And I'm like, that's not the point. That's not the point.
Right.
You know, what I think this random fake person who I'm talking about are asking me is like, why aren't we having a public square conversation in which we call out the Republicans' vacuousness in their attack on Mayorkas? And the opportunity for that is it exists, and that is the Senate trial. But of course, if the Senate is busy doing a trial, what they are not doing is working.
Right.
And that's why right now the House is holding on to the Mayorkas impeachment, because the minute they pass it to the Senate is required to start acting on it. And we have a government to fund this week.
Right.
Network, you know, March 1st and March 8th are the dates. So they can't be consumed by an impeachment trial, or else the government will shut down.
Right. Yeah. Knock on wood. Let's get those funding bills passed, and then we can deal with this. I do think that a lot of Democrats just want the issue of immigration to leave headlines, which seems unlikely to me. But that does seem to be the argument that I'm seeing against holding any kind of trial in the Senate, is like Republicans just want to grandstand and like bash Biden on immigration, which like undeniably is a bad issue for him politically, whether you agree with like how he's approached it or not, or you think it's too progressive or too conservative. Like it's not a strong issue. And so I think that they just want to keep it in headlines as long as possible.
Yeah. I mean, do we allow them to dictate the terms of a conversation?
Totally. Fair point.
Brian, you know, I'm checking out till Super Tuesday. That date is fast approaching, but can you give me an update on what's going on? Today's a big day.
Yeah, I feel like you have a project that's due soon, and you're like
Truly,
starting
and
to
I'm
feel
gonna
the dread. Super Tuesday is when Glennis
But you're my
forced to
study
tune in.
buddy. I'm asking you for your notebook.
I've been taking notes all semester, baby.
And definitely Emily's for sure.
So we just had the South Carolina Republican primary. Trump beat Haley. Zero surprise there. It was 60% to 40%, which is Honestly, it was somehow embarrassing for both of them. So Haley got defeated by 20 points in a state that she was governor twice. She was elected to 2 terms as governor.
Right.
And a huge number of voters were saying that Trump is or would be unfit to hold office if he's convicted of crimes or already. And so like all the exit polling that you look at just shows huge fractures in the Republican electorate, even in a state as far right in the conservative movement as South Carolina. Looking forward, when you hear this, we will have the results of the Michigan primary. And I think the major thing that people are watching there is Biden. There is an ongoing campaign for Democrats to vote uncommitted instead of voting for Biden, to register their discontent with him as the nominee, either specifically because of his policy towards Israel, his age, or something else.
Both.
There are normally about 20,000 uncommitted votes in any given primary. And so what we're really watching for is if there's a huge increase in uncommitted votes that could potentially definitely generate headlines, could potentially create more uncertainty or just like add questions to the Democratic primary. And on the flip side of that, if there is not this huge uncommitted wave in Michigan, I would expect the Biden team to come out really aggressively to shut down any and all criticism, because if it's going to happen somewhere, this is where it's going to happen. There's a huge Arab American population in Michigan. There have been plenty of reports about issues going on with the electorate there. And so this would be the moment for that to happen.
Okay. So the 20,000 benchmark is good to know. Thank you for that. So we'll see. And we don't have the results at our time of recording, but when you're listening tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning, we'll have them.
DM us and jump into the group chat.
Yes. And then we have Super Tuesday next week. So that's when I'm going to start chiming in, I guess. So this is called Super Tuesday because there are a huge bunch of states that have primaries. So we have Alabama, Alaska, which is GOP only, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Iowa, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Go Cats, Virginia, and the U.S. territory of American Samoa. So I'm going to start studying, I guess, and I'll report all those out to you next week.
The big takeaway for Super Tuesday, we'll talk about it more next week, is that it's likely the official end of the Republican primary if Haley has only committed to staying in through Super Tuesday. And so she could easily drop out after she loses all of the states that you just listed. Most of them, if not all of them, are winner take all states. I think a majority of them are winner take all states for the Republican primary. And so Trump's delegate number is going to skyrocket. The math will essentially not exist for Haley to win the nomination, and she may drop out, or maybe she'll just stay in to be a thorn in Trump's side. Who knows?
The rest is still unwritten, as Natasha Bedingfield once said. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Truly, I learned a lot. I'm
Happy to be here.
Today, I will chalk up today as the start of my trad wife journey, and I will owe that all to you, Emily.
I'll start sending you my recipes, Ryan,
Perfect.
and demand that you cook them.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Well, okay, if you don't follow Emily Amick, Emily in your phone on Instagram, she is my #1 follow. I'm not just saying that because I'm friends with her. She literally gives me the information I need in a very digestible, approachable way that gives me optimism and hope.
Yeah.
Thanks
Please
for coming
come find
on.
me. Happy to be here. Happy to bring the group chat to the public.
Yeah, Emily's in the group chat. Reveal.
Everybody.
So that was actually thrilling to have a member of the group chat on the pod. We're going to talk about the group chat without our group chat member.
It feels a little bit like the reverse of a three-way call where you're like have someone silent listening. We're like, oh, you can go now, and now we're going to talk about the
teenage trauma.
True.
For Gen Zers, Gen Z, that was, back in the day when we had to use landlines, and like when we would call someone, we'd be like, hi, Mr. Derek, is Brian home? I'd like to speak with him. And then they'd be like, "Sure, Glennis, please hold. We'll see if Brian's around." Like, how insane that we had to like formally call people's landlines to talk to them. Oh,
You cosplaying an entire conversation from
with
high
your
school
dad
right now is
Yeah.
like iconic.
Okay, group chat. You sent
Triggering.
this one. Can you tell me about this? 'Cause I didn't realize that it was
This
a gay thing, but it's a gay thing.
It's totally a gay thing. Okay, so Gemini AI is the Google version of ChatGPT, kind of. And they had to turn it off because it's like secretly gay.
Oh my god, it's
And so
giving. Don't say gay. Why did they
they
turn it?
I do not know, but they have been asking it like, "Oh, show me a picture of a pope." And it would show like
Sexy
a
Pope?
black woman as
Oh,
pope. And then they would be like, "Show
okay.
me a picture of like an American family." And it was just like like gays.
So conservatives were
Um
shaking.
freaking out, like having a total meltdown because it didn't show the exact image of what they expected
Right.
when they were typing these certain prompts in. And I just thought that it was funny. So they're like, obviously still working out the kinks with a bunch of these generative AI things, which is why I'm not overly concerned they're going to end the world
Right.
this year and save us from the election. But for the time being, I thought that it was just an absolute blast to have AI on our side triggering
Totally.
the conservative
Totally.
snowflakes.
Gay rights. Gay rights.
And speaking of, I guess it was a pretty gay week in the group
Mhm.
chat. Did you see the Nick Offerman clip?
I did. I thought it was good. I thought that he was like, "Everyone shut up." Because, okay, for those who don't know, I found it to be an amazing TV show, The Last of Us, which is based off a video
Oh,
game.
so
This
good.
one episode broke my heart. It was beautiful. It felt like a film. And it was Nick Offerman and the guy from The White Lotus.
Murray Bartlett.
Thank you. And it's a love story. And he won what award? A Spirit Award. And there was a lot of pushback that this love story was a gay love story.
When homophobic hate comes my way and says, "Why did you have to make it a gay story?" We say, "Because you ask questions like that, it's not a gay story, it's a love story, you asshole."
It was like these two dudes, and neither one read immediately as like flaming homosexual.
Especially, I would say, because Nick Offerman's character was like a doomsdayer, like world ender prepper, which I think in the cultural zeitgeist, one usually assumes is like an alt-right, you know, gun NRA carrying, member of society. And he was that, but then also gay.
If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready
Okay.
for the apocalypse.
Right. I
He
was
was
inspired
ready.
by that. I was like, ooh, should I have
You were-
like canned beans?
Meanwhile, Glennis literally put a Luna bar in a paper Whole
ready to
Foods
go.
bag by the door, and she's
This might go back.
fully ready.
Wait, one more thing. I didn't talk about it in the group chat, but I want to talk about it with you right now. Is I watched Oppenheimer. Have you seen it yet?
I just saw it for the first
Okay.
time.
So I'm a very curious person, and during Oppenheimer, I started Googling if an atomic bomb hit New York City or both city people, like how big would the blast zone be? And what was so funny to me,
Everyone in New York has Googled that at least once.
by the
It's
way,
a fact.
they don't even care. Like, it's not about, we're all dead. Any New Yorker, if you're listening to this, just
Gone.
FYI, like there's no, we're dead. All the results are how far outside of New York City does it go? Because everyone's assuming New Yorkers.
Which is honestly nice that we don't have to worry about what the escape plan is because there's no escape.
There's no escape. My Luna bar in my Whole Foods bag is burnt up in the 10,000 foot flame nuke.
All right. My good vibe for this week is a very wonky story that
Okay.
I got super into about immigration.
Hmm.
I saw this piece, Axios covered it, and this brand new study, first of its kind, looked at the economic impact of people who have resettled in the United States as refugees and asylum seekers over essentially the last 15 years. And what they found was that those individuals had a net positive economic impact of over $120 billion to the US economy after you consider the costs of settling them and support services and all of these things, because they were hardworking people who were paying their taxes
Mhm.
and contributing to our economy. And as we have always known, America is the land of immigrants.
Yeah.
And this is such a cool way to show that story in a new way. Especially as people are having so much economic uncertainty and like feeling those vibes, that like here's a reason for you to have a lot of hope looking forward. And a critical resource for the United States moving forward are our immigrant communities. That's our good vibe for the week. So thanks all for listening. Thank you to Emily in your phone for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.